Ms. Cox, Dr. Watt.
Okay, just put it up. Okay. Okay, all right. How many days? Okay, how many days? Y'all leaving now? Y'all going now?
Okay, let's see. All right, so to hear others speak, unmute your system volume. Oops. Okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
Mr. Dunn, now that we have a quorum, do I need to start, or can I wait another minute or two to see if other trustees are able to come on?
You know, you really need to go ahead and start now that you got a quorum.
Sorry,
right.
I didn't realize I download this. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Cox, can you hear me? I think you're muted, Ms. Cox. So Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Is that you, Ms. Cox?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Great.
Lisa, Yvonne,
Right.
JS. Is Mr. Sparks there?
Don't believe Mr. Sparks is on for the moment. Okay, so let's call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum present on the call with us. We have myself, Dr. Shoemake, Trustee Yvonne Cox, and Trustee Lisa Young at this moment. Also, Dr. Block on the call listed. So if we could, I'll ask our invocation, and then we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please bow with me. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all the things you do for us individually, our families, this community, and this state and country and world, Lord. We just ask you to continue to guide us in the way and the principles that you have us to go to be able to be the best that we could possibly be under your plan as you so perfectly put together, Lord. We just ask you to continue to heal this country, this community, and each one of us so that we can be the best for one another. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, I want to see if I can get it right there. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and
and
to
to
the
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, board, so we have our review meeting agenda, which is for July the 8th today, that's before us on the screen. Can everyone see this on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So if you would, I need a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Has been moved by Trustee Cox, has been seconded by, is that Ms. Young?
It was Shoemake.
Dr. Shoemake, seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Okay, being none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, it is unanimous 4-0 to adopt today's agenda. All right, so next we go to our first item on the agenda, which is item number 4, consideration and discussion to change the CMSD 2020-2021 public budget hearing date from Monday, July the 27th, 2020 to Wednesday, August the 5th, 2020 at 6 p.m. This was a request Dr. Labat had brought to put on the agenda just as they are working through some different to get the rest of the information together. And I know they'll give us an additional update, more information at our meeting on Monday night. But as far as being prepared with everything for us to go through, that will be necessary for us to move the meeting. So does anyone else have any discussion or comments about the request? Okay. Here's none. I need a motion to approve the change of the budget hearing date from July the 27th to August the 5th.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Trustee Young.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
That's Ms. Cox.
Yes.
It's been seconded by Ms. Cox. Any discussion? Okay, being none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And let's see, is Mr. Stark on the call? Just to make sure. Okay, it does pass 4-0. It is unanimous. We go to item 5, which is the consideration and/or discussion to approve the advertisement of the CMSD public budget hearing on July the 21st and July the 28th, for the hearing to take place on August the 5th, 2020 at 6 p.m. And this is just a public notification of our upcoming hearing now that the board has changed the date so that they can start running in other places. So if we could, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Cox, seconded, was that Dr. Shoemate?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Dr. Shoemate. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please signify with an aye vote. Aye.
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 All right. So I do hear 4 ayes and any opposed? Okay, hearing none, it does pass 4-0 unanimous. Next on the agenda for today is the Office of Superintendent Dr. Sheree Labat's request for consideration and discussion to approve the 2020-2021 CMSD Student Handbook. And Dr. Labat, I know you're listening. If you're able, would you like to spotlight anything or regarding any changes in the handbook in relationship to our relationship to changes at the institution?
We did put some provisions in to discuss distance learning into the handbook and made some provisions with start time and end time with the contingency of moving forward the next couple weeks to solidify our plans and scheduling. And so you'll see some additional information about digital citizenship, and we have some flexibility in terms of start and end times as it relates to the contingency of how we will return to school in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And those are the major changes.
Okay. Board, is there any other questions regarding this item, concerns regarding the item?
No, I'm good.
Okay, here's I need a motion to approve I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Cox.
Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemate, seconded by Ms. Cox.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify with aye vote. Aye.
Aye.
Cox. Cox, aye.
Aye.
All right. That's 4 votes. Any opposed? Hearing none, it is passed unanimously 4-0. All right, so that takes care of the item for discussion and consideration on today's agenda. Now let me pull up our review material for Monday night, July the 13th meeting. Let's see here. And so looking at the agenda, is everyone able to see the agenda here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we have our standard call to application, adoption of the agenda, the school board minutes for June the 3rd, special meeting, June the 8th, regular meeting, June the 27th, our work session meeting minutes. Under trustee travel and discussion, our trustee travel report, discussion of storm recovery efforts, FEMA capital improvement plan, and for the Columbus Municipal School District. And I think Dr. Bott will tailor Hunt.
Yes, he will. And also under the superintendent report will be allow Dr. Dito to discuss our update on the roofs throughout the district.
Okay. All right. I know, I think in the budget amendments, there's some different requests there on funding for covering that. That would be great. Okay. And is there any other capital improvements or other things under that heading we'll hear about?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Then we have our discussion of the Hunt campus recovery, and just as we talked about at our work session, I know we've had discussion regarding, being able to track when the architect comes or other information is brought to us so that we can match things up. Hopefully we'll be able to work to have a new function code or excuse me, a fund code established that will track the expenditures and the receipts that come in regarding that particular project. As we discussed the other day in our work session, fund I think it's 3027 on our fund balance sheet will show us the cost that's been spent since the storm hit. Union up and operational, as well as some of the immediate actions taken regarding the Hunt campus. And so by establishing a new fund code, we'll be able to more clearly track expenditures and of course any receipts that we have come in regarding the Hunt rebuild. Is that still good with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. And so we'll work to that end, and then also once that's established, hopefully, with the roofing project and everything that's ongoing now, it'll be real easy. It's just Dr. Bott was able to get with, I think, Holly to get a report that would be able to be attached to our monthly meeting attached to this item so that we can review those expenditures and of course, reimbursement or payment. Is that still good with you, Dr. Labat?
Yes. So as we detailed in the work session, you would just like to make sure that we're streamlining the expenditures from the Hunt facility so that the board will be able to identify what would be returned to district maintenance. Is that correct?
That's correct. Because I know that we have the insurance on deposit, but then also it just helps us track the total cost of the project as things move forward. And so we're continuing in our discussions are able to really track as we move forward.
So, Mr. Spears, if I hear you clearly, and I'll put that in Dr. Dito's hands, that as we draw down payments from the architect and from the roof project, you would like to know a running total of the expenditure so that we keep an eye on the cost of the facility in a rebuild, correct?
I think that's what the board has. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's it.
And of course, that way we can also see, I think as Taylor had mentioned, when FEMA, MEMA, they do their reimbursement, when insurance makes payments that if we get any money from the Mississippi Department of Archives, we've got one way, kind of one focal point to see all of that really under one area. And we don't have multiple accounts interacting, and we don't know, okay, well, we spent $300,000 here, we spent, $2 million there, and what money was from insurance, what money was FEMA, MEMA, so that we can really get it, a total, a comprehension of what's going on there.
Okay, we'll take care of that and make sure that I'll talk to Ms. Rogers and try to have a solid plan in a reporting format that's easily accessible and readable to the Board of Trustees.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And so that'll be something, Board, as I've expanded this particular item on the agenda, we'll have that report attached, monthly as we go forward, as we go from roofing to the next phase and can keep up with everything. So, next, we have our contract renewals. I know we're coming up on a new school year, and I know there's quite a few contracts that are being requested on this particular agenda. So some of these ones that you see here will obviously be added to or changed, once the board approves. We also have, let's see here, copiers. We have insurance that comes up at the end of, I think in October, all these different things that will be updated. I think maybe there's some insurance that we just, or was just voted on last week or at our review meeting, a retreat, that will also be updated on this list as we go forward. So go from there on that. Next we have, or is there any questions about any of that? Okay. Next we have our discussion of our 2020-2021 budget status, adjustments, revenues, and related topics. Obviously, as we're working toward our final budget, we did get a report and some details regarding kind of how the status stands with different things, and there have been some movement regarding what MAP funding may look like that's a little bit different, and some other changes. And so, of course, maybe some more firm numbers regarding what our busing calculations may look like. So as we go into, hopefully, we'll get additional information that will, layer on top of where we stand with respect to our budget and some of the revenues and expenditures we're, looking at. So, Dr. Scott, is that something that will be also part of this section? Okay, I think I may have lost her.
Oh, yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Next is item B6, which is our discussion of campus to home internet initiative for the CMSD. We had talked about working with this Clumps Light Water and how that would come together. Dr. Bott had mentioned about possibly having building upon the infrastructure we have. Certainly, we can't have too much strength in this area. There was a proposal that was put into resources regarding if we don't look at community hotspots and personal hotspots. And
okay. Yes, Mr. Spears.
yes.
Coming up, and it won't be until after the board meeting on July 13th that we're going to discuss some of the CARES funds that were given to the governor, lieutenant governor's office, and try to do some infrastructure systems within our community to make sure that we have an accessibility. So although that Mr. Lawton will report on Monday about the home internet initiative, we do have a meeting on Tuesday, if I recall correctly, Mr. Lawton, to discuss some additional infrastructure for accessibility for our students.
Okay. All right.
You're right. That meeting's on. That meeting is on Tuesday. You're correct.
Now, one
Okay,
question.
thank you.
One question is, I know had been proposed possibly getting in with the possibility of working with Columbus Housing authorities and other partners throughout the community. You may also be able to work to get grants or other things that may help with this effort across the city or across our district. Is that part of the discussion that we had?
I'll wait to detail that information probably at the next board meeting. It's unfortunate that I will not be able to meet with them prior to Monday's meeting, but as soon as we get an update, Mr. Lawton and I will do a summary and put that information inside the board resources and reports at our next scheduled meeting.
Okay. The other item you see here was a presentation of information put together for us regarding all students, or 30% of students, that dealt with the monthly plans of having a personal hotspot. Because obviously, if we get into another situation of a shelter in place, or bad weather or whatever it may be, may complicate transmission, or of course, the ability for students to access those services that we're working on, kind of the external side of things. And as you can see here, and maybe if Dr. Labat or whomever would kind of share a little bit more about this particular proposal as to what company it was through. Was this the only company that submitted back some details regarding our request?
Yeah. So.
Go ahead.
I can speak on it real quick. This is C-Spire. C-Spire's been giving kind of the best deal so far as personal hotspots go. We did, as y'all might remember, we did try to apply for a grant called the 1 Million Project through Verizon. We were not given that. That was all those devices have been allocated for the 2020-2021 school year. So this was really our next best option from C-Spire. I built the 30% off of it was off of a survey done in 2018 or 2019 that said there's about 30% of civilians in Columbus that may not have internet. And that this is straight from C-Spire.
Okay.
And I would also say with the meeting that we have upcoming, I think that as a district we need to wait to get as much information as possible before we enter into any contract related to accessibility right now. We expect some more federal guidance about even our reopening policies and funding. And so with the expenditures and the reoccurring costs, I think it would be best if we wait to meet with our local support, look at our state funds that are available through CARES Fund outside the funds that were allocated to the Columbus Municipal School District via federal funds and CARES Act, to be able to substantiate some infrastructure before we look at any of the proposed information that we gathered for the Board of Trustees. I think that we're in a moving target pattern right now, and I think that any expense right now related to technology outside of our current infrastructure would be premature.
Okay. All right. There's a couple other questions I have on this. And board, if you have any other questions, please chime in. I understand what it says there is that if you get a 2-year commitment, they waive the $129 device fee. Would that be if, okay, that number's on 3424 in students, if we end up 3,500 students, they come in after the fact, that would still apply for any students that would be enrolled with that. And the 3424 students, is that total population, or is that saying, okay, well, you may have siblings who all live in the same household, and there's, say 3 siblings, and so that would be 3 of the 324, or have you made that adjustment in those numbers?
Those adjustments have not been made. So 3424, so 3,424. That is based off of the month of May 2019. I just pulled all students that we had in the entire district. That was the most accurate number I could get, or most recent number I could get. So that's not assuming with the seniors graduating or anything like that.
Right.
Now with the 2-year commitment, I would have to look at. I didn't get any real specifics from the contract. I spoke to the representative over the phone for a good while, and the 2-year commitment would be based off any of the devices we purchased based off the contract. So I don't think we could add any more onto that. Now, I mean, obviously we haven't signed anything or gone into an actual agreement on this, but we would have to purchase the device number that we wanted to get rid of that 129 charge if we signed the 2-year commitment.
And I guess, is there any way, I mean, like I said, I see the total number there, but is there any way that we have a census? I mean, I know we do registration every year, and that's going on now, I believe, and everything, but that we would know, okay, well, we have 3 of our students live in this household, 1 that live in this particular household, whatever the numbers come back, so that we would actually know, okay, well, we're not going to send 3 students home with 3 separate hotspots in one location. We might actually only need to send, instead of 3,424, we might actually only need 2,500 hotspots.
Now,
and that obviously decreases the monthly charge. Everything.
yes, sir, you're right. So there's not a way right now for me to pull that number very easily, but I could probably work it out in combination with my SIS coordinator here in my office. We could probably pull it together in a couple weeks based off of 2019. The information for this upcoming year with registration and stuff like that, that's not going to be finalized until pretty much, I think it's 2 days before, or no, almost the day of first day of school. So I could base it off of 2019 with siblings and stuff like that. Now the thing is about these hotspots is they're only, you'll see there's a 25 gigabyte data plan on them. That's per month. You got to be wary of how many students you put on that device. It's pretty much just a phone without the phone capabilities, correct? So you don't want too many students on one device. I would almost put a cap of 3 on there. So if you have more than 3 kids in a household, which is probably unlikely, that'd be something we'd have to address. We might send 2 to that household or something like that. There's a lot of moving points, like Dr. Lovat said. There's a lot of moving factors with this.
Okay. But I guess as we go forward, we can kind of synthesize this down a little bit more to get a more clear picture instead of talking about what we can add in production.
I can try to get the numbers based off of last year if you would like for the board meeting, I guess. From what I understand from Dr. Lovat, we're going to address this in August.
Right. No, I wouldn't necessarily. I just want to make sure that we're getting as close to accurate numbers as possible instead of just a total number. So, Mr. Dunn, is it better now?
I can't hear you very well. Does anybody else having problems here?
I'm having the same problem.
If you're not speaking, you have to mute while you're not talking, or you won't be able to hear.
All right, can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, you're clear now. It's just been JC. Are you experiencing that cutting in and out?
I was a little bit, but I think it's better now.
Okay, excellent.
Perfect.
I can hear great right now. So you asked a question, Mr. Spears, I couldn't hear.
My question that I posed was, just for the board to have as best of or accurate picture of the numbers. If I think Mr. Lawton was able to say that he would go back and work with Dr. Block to filter down as best we could households so that we know just how many students, individual students, if say you have 4 students in a household, then you might need 2 units there covering that versus just 1. Or if you had 2 students in one household and 1 in another and 3 in another, those 3 households might actually be served by 1 particular unit in that household. So we're not just looking at total enrollment times the number that's going to cost per month. We're actually looking at a more accurate depiction of what the landscape looks like for each household that we serve as students. And
Right.
something like I said, as Dr. Bott said, we're not going to try to rush out and do it. Certainly, there is urgency in the matter regarding what we dealt with at the end of last year, and of course what we're still facing going into this school year. But nothing that has to be solved at this upcoming meeting. But certainly, food for thought of areas we need to explore.
Right.
Board members, do y'all have any other comments on this particular item or questions? Okay. Let me go back to.
My question kind of ties into what you're saying. If we had an accurate count of who needs accessibility at this moment, had that information been considered or put in the registration information, or is it still we're gonna wait until that time comes? Is that what we're saying?
I think what he was talking about was the number of households. I can get that number. I think we sent out a survey about, do you have reliable internet at your house? Do you have a device? And we didn't get great feedback from that. Nothing that I can firmly say this is the number. I'm still basing off of that 2018-2019 survey that was done. Dr. Labat sent that to me. I can't remember who did that survey, who conducted it. But it went through a number of counties and drilled it down to cities as well. So I think that's what I'm basing the number off of.
I have a question. This is Cox.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Cox.
Could you possibly use the registration information, as Ms. Young asked, to get a number?
So registration, the forms on registration can't be changed because we've released them already as of Monday. Those forms can no longer be changed. Off the top of my head, I don't think there's anything in there about do you have a device, but I can double check that right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions on item B6? Okay. Next, we go to the discussion of the bicentennial planning for Franklin Academy, scheduled for February the 12th, 2021. Dr. Labat, do you have any comments, or Lisa, I know we serve on the committee together, that you'd like to share? Okay. I'll just say that, we've been working with respect to other partners in the community, getting the plans pulled together, everything that we, need to have pulled together, and finishing up the invitation list. One thing I think would be something we should consider is, while we're, as the individuals who are serving on this committee are pulling together everything from public service to education, all the people that we're going to be sending invitations to, that each board member, if you have, say, 5 people or so that you would like to send formal invitations to the historic event, that we could also submit those, email them in with respect to, you would just need the person's name, address, email address. I think those are some of the details. We can talk more about it at Monday's meeting, but just start thinking about if there are individuals that you would also like to send an invitation to this event. Is that okay with everyone?
And Mr. Spears, I apologize. Mr. Lawton, I think I was muted on the previous, the home internet information. Can everybody hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say, from the home internet, I was wanted to detail that there's a big push, especially by the American Pediatric Association, for students to be on campus, almost to the point with Secretary DeVos's recent press conference prior to this meeting of federal funds possibly being withheld if students are not to return to school 5 days a week. And so I think the home internet, that we need to, like I said, proceed cautiously as I think there's going to be a big push for them to be within the brick and mortar of the building, as the per executive order from the state of Florida. And if we follow suit, then the accessibility in our current infrastructure will act as an accessibility, and we would work around the parameters of the possibility of if there's an exposure outbreak, students being out temporarily, as we work to get our devices ordered with MDE and move forward. On the bicentennial planning committee, you did a great job summarizing, so that's it.
Okay.
For those two.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Labat. And so, Ms. Young, do you have anything you'd like to share regarding the bicentennial planning?
You did a great job. Thank you. We are our push. I know I do remember our last push is to get names, addresses, and phone numbers, so we can get that information mailed. Well, not necessarily mailed out, but back to the committee by July 15th. Is that accurate, Dr. Labat?
That's correct. I actually have the when we meet on Thursday, the committee, some updates on that information with the invitations and getting the invitation list together. And so I'll update the committee, and if we may have a better presentation on Monday at the regular board meeting to detail some issues that will be taken care of by Monday. So yes, you're correct, Ms. Trustee Young.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for sharing on that, and we'll talk more in depth about it on Monday night. Next is the item. I know Mr. Dunn is pulling details together. It's the consideration and discussion of extension of the employment contract for Dr. Labat through June 30th, 2024. The way that the contract last time was extended, I believe, was in October of 2019, and so it was set to end in October of 2023. And certainly, I know that Dr. Labat has been working tirelessly and with her heart forward in trying to serve the students and staff of this district and working with us. And so, I've asked if we can put this on the agenda just to go ahead and try to make this study going with information for COVID-19 Mr. Dunn, would you like to comment anything about the supervisor?
Honestly, I didn't hear the last few sentences of what.
Signed out and came back in.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what happened. The whole meeting crashed. I don't know how that happened.
I'm just glad it wasn't me.
Yeah, no one did anything. It seems like WebEx had some type of issue.
All right.
Let's see. We're missing Ms. Cox, it looks like. Oh, we crashed. Look at that in our notes.
It dropped at 12:08.
Was it 08? Okay.
Yeah. I think.
And it's back to recording, so everything should be good once everyone rejoins.
Whew. Okay.
All right. So just a quick roll call.
We had 10 the last time. We've got 8 now.
Ms. Young, can you hear me?
She's on mute.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Ms. Cox, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And Shoemake, you can hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn, I see you're back on. All right. Mr. Lawton, Dr. Labat, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here. This is
Okay.
Dr. Labat.
Oh, okay.
All right. And let's see.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, that's all right.
All right. So we'll pick up.
All right. Yeah, don't forget to look at that. So.
Got some background noise. Okay. So now we still at the consideration discussion of the employment contract. As I was mentioning, Dr. Labat's contract is set to end in October of 2023. And, you know, certainly I know she's been working hard for the district and had a lot she's had to work through to keep us on track and moving forward. And this would also align with the cycles of school years as well in this change. So does anyone have any questions or comments on this item that we'll talk about on Monday? Okay. So next we move to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we have general school administration, some policy changes that will be presented at this upcoming meeting next Monday that will be considered on August the 10th meeting, 2020. And then we have our extracurricular activity scheduled, CMSD bus turnarounds for school year 2020-2021. Then we have our extracurricular activities price list, consideration to approve CMSD rental fees for the use of facilities and practice fields. Then we have our dates to remember, academic dates. Teacher's first day is August the 3rd. August the 6th is when we have our CMSD students return. Board meeting dates, July the 25th, we'll have our second board retreat that we'll have that Saturday at Brandon, same way we did last go around. And if we go to August the 5th, we have our review meeting at Union Academy, and the board approved on today's agenda to have our meeting that evening for the budget hearing. So that'll be August the 5th at 6 p.m., excuse me. And then we'll have that following Monday, our regular meeting, August the 10th, 2020. And before we go past this item, Mr. Dunn, did you have something you wanted to share?
No, I was just trying to figure out, I'm on my iPad right now.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how to unmute the thing, and I finally did.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Looking at the next item, which is open forum. Then we have Office of Business Management. We have our monthly financials, fund balance report, cash balance report, budget status report. As of June 30th, I know our business office and Dr. Labat will be working to close out the books. As some of the details we discussed at our last retreat meeting, work session, as to some of these financials of getting some accounts reconciled and everything that we'll review as we get into September, October timeframe. Then we have our revenue budget report, expenditure budget report, reconciled bank statements, ad valorem tax collection analysis, budget amendments, fixed asset disposals and reversed fixed asset disposals. And then we have our claims docket, the federal programs, and IDA monthly financials. So does anyone have any questions right now on the agenda items or the financials? Okay. Moving on to Office of the Superintendent, we have Superintendent Travel Report, update, Superintendent Update and Reports item that Dr. Labat has been able to add here so that she can give us some status of reopening and other things that she feels we need to be aware of. Then we have Superintendent Recommendations. We have the request to approve salary schedule for bus drivers. We have the 2020-2021 supplements for additional duties, additional contract off-work addendums to contract, staff personnel items, and 2020-2021 CMSD employee handbook for consideration. So is there any question about these first 5 items under superintendent? Okay. Next, we go to consideration discussion to approve MOU between CMSD and East Mississippi Community College dual enrollment. Then we have item 7, which is discussion and consideration of MOU between the CMSD and MSMS for AP courses. Then we have consideration discussion to approve the demolition of home on 16th section property located at 213 5th Street North. Is that 5th Street or 15th Street?
I have to confirm with the email that you sent me, and maybe a typo, but Ms. Witter and I are confirmed if it's 5th Street or 15th Street. I don't recall, sir.
Okay. Yeah, because we'll make sure that we approve the correct location. I thought it was on 15th Street, but it may be.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna demolish the wrong house.
Right, yeah, we don't want to party with that. But would you like to share a little bit about this, Dr. Labat, on this property?
Yes. This is currently 16th section property in the city of Columbus that the district is responsible for, and we're in the process of doing the asbestos abatement, and it has a pool on it, taking care of that, and getting bids for that. We're all ready to go after the asbestos abatement. These are local residents that have a home that's parallel to the property, and the property has been a hazard. So we will be taking care of that situation as soon as we get the asbestos abatement.
Okay.
Mr. Spears,
Yes, sir.
it is 15th Street North.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was 15th, not 5th, because 5th is over there by the hospital.
Right.
So it's correct, Mr. Dunn?
It's 15th Street North.
15th Street. Okay, we'll make that correction. Ms. Woodard will make that correction. 15th Street. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing on that part. Then we have consideration discussion the CMSD revised responsibility chart. Consideration discussion to approve 2020-2021 drug testing agreement between CMSD and Quartz Program Incorporated. Consideration discussion to renewal between CMSD and State Termite Pest Control. Then we have our 2020-2021 revised athletic handbook, 2020-21 homeless procedures plan. Then we have our CMSD foster care procedures plan, CMSD EL plan for English learners. We have to approve consideration between Stokes Beard and First Presbyterian on behalf of Mississippi Network Backpack Program or Take Home Backpack Program. Then we have between Cook Elementary and Mississippi Food Network Program. Let's see here, between Franklin Elementary and Mississippi Food Network Program. And then we also have Franklin Academy with First United Methodist. Is that a duplication or an additional program to what the First United Methodist is doing at the location?
Ms. Woodard, did both principals submit separate applications for the backpack program?
Excuse me. Franklin Academy has a contract, not a contract, an agreement with our partnership with First United Methodist Church. And then they also will go through them with the Mississippi Food Network Backpack Program. There's agreement for the church and then the backpack program.
Okay, I was just making sure that I didn't see Fairview on here. Make sure I put on the, especially Fairview, not Frank.
Okay.
All right. Next, we go to consideration discussion to approve CMSD antenna space. Dr. Bott, would you like to share?
I didn't hear you, Mr. Spears. Repeat what you just said.
Sure. Consideration discussion to approve agreement between CMSD and Red Space.
Oh yes, that is our all of our property that was in the Hunt facility.
Okay. All right.
So that's a Hunt expense insurance expense.
Okay, all right. So we probably, I don't know, it's paid annually or monthly?
I didn't hear you. Repeat yourself, sir.
Is it paid monthly or annually?
It's paid. They invoice us monthly, but
Okay,
it's a year. Yeah.
but we're getting reimbursed from MEMA regarding this rental space.
Dr. Dito will submit this information to FEMA on their next meeting with all the expenses for reimbursement.
Okay. All right. Another item that'll be linked to, as we talked about earlier, part of the secret fund balance.
Pardon me, sir?
I was just saying, I know there's a lot of background noise, I think, somewhere. But I was just going to say is that this particular item would be linked under the new fund code that's established for tracking expenses at Hunt.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Next is item 21, consideration discussion to approve lease or purchase agreement for transportation building. Is there any comment?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I may have to get a third party to review the agreement. I know that Mr. Dunn has a conflict of interest with a particular person that we're leasing from. Looking at the agreement, but it has been submitted, and it is the best situation as far as leasing it that we have right now for our buses.
Well, no, and I agree. I looked at the pictures. I think that was put maybe in resources, or it might be attached to this. I can't remember, but I did look through, and it looked like, obviously, if you determine that that's where it needs to be. My only concern is, certainly, I understand leasing the facility, for our needs and everything. But the one thing I'm not good with is the purchase sale part of it for one major reason. When we're leasing a property, that property retains privately owned. That individual will then have background.
I agree. I agree. We can take that language off of it with just the lease agreement and move forward. I know the property was for sale. Mr. Dunn, you have any input?
No, ma'am.
Well, what I was going to complete my thought in saying is that if we buy or sell, if we buy the particular facility, it comes off the tax roll. And by us leasing the property, then yes, I know we're paying a lease, but that particular individual who owns the property is having to still pay ad valorem taxes on it that come back to us. So in a way, we're getting a rebate by paying the lease versus owning the property. Steve, y'all have any comments on that?
Jason, you cut out for me. I couldn't hear anything you were saying.
I know there's a lot of background.
Yeah, I can hear everybody but you, Jason.
Okay, is that better now?
Yeah, you're on now.
Okay. My comment was on this particular item, 21, instead of, certainly if Dr. Bott and her team have identified this would be the best place to have the bus servicing and place to have the buses, that would be great to lease the facility. But I have issue with trying to maybe look to purchase it, even though it's been for sale, because then we lose the tax base from it. So,
right.
If it stays in private ownership, we can still pay the lease, but then we're in a sense getting a rebate on that lease because they still have to pay taxes, ad valorem taxes back to the district on that property.
Gotcha. Yes. It's a great idea.
So with respect to what we see here, we see the commercial lease, and I guess this would be a question for you, Mr. Dunn. We see a commercial lease, and then we see a commercial purchase and sale agreement. Do we need to just take off one and only be looking at the lease agreement, or are we going to?
Yeah, I think you're cutting out again, but I did hear all you said. Yeah, you would not want to approve the purchase agreement if you're want to commit to a lease.
Right. I think it's like a lease to own, maybe where I read through it, but I mean, certainly it would make more sense long term for the school district's advantage to just lease the property and not purchase it because of the whole ad valorem situation.
Yeah, I mean, that it won't hurt anything if you approve the lease with the option to purchase, in that you're just not going to exercise your option. Now, on the other hand, if you look at long term, time value of money, basically, leasing, you'd have to kind of analyze that and say, okay, if we owned it and there's not great maintenance with it, would we come out better? How long would it take us to come out better? But I don't see a problem with having the option to purchase in the lease. You're just not going to exercise it if you don't want to. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I just think it's cleaner just to do a lease, and if at some point in the future this board or any other board decides they want to purchase it, then take it at that point. But I don't want it to be something where there's this belief that there's the possibility we're going to buy it when it mathematically makes more sense not buying it for the long term. Because I mean, any improvements on the property enhance the value, and of course, enhancing the value means that the cost of the taxes that they pay on that property go up. Versus if we own it, we enhance it, well then we get no economic benefit from it long term.
Right. I still say that there's no harm in having an option to purchase, because things change in the future. Something might come up that would make it more profitable to exercise it. I've seen 1,000 leases that had options to purchase and people didn't exercise it. It's just no big deal. I don't think the seller or lessor would have any expectations other than the lease.
This will pull up here.
I think you're gone again, Mr. Spears.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pulling this up. 29th, set the date, undersigned seller, buyer. Seller agrees to sell the buyer that. Okay, lease option purchase. Okay. As far as what you've seen in this particular document, Mr. Dunn, you don't see this as being the district committing itself to lease and then have to purchase it, even with what's marked here.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if anything, it puts you in a better position in that, options are always good. Opportunities, you never know what the future holds. So you're not committed, but you do have that option, and things change. Another board might choose to buy it.
And I'm a novice when it comes to some of these different contracts, but I mean, what's the deposit of $5,000 into an escrow account?
Chris reviewed this document, but I think that's if they exercise the option. You'll have to give me a chance. I'm going to have to look it over just real quickly, and I can report back to you. You may want to not table, but postpone this for a few minutes so I can review this real quickly.
Okay.
Well, and Ms. Woodard, Dr. Dio just sent the updated copy. We can get that done before Monday. We could just leave a contingency with the lease to buy and look over the information and move forward. But there's an additional agreement that he sent, and we can send that over to Mr. Dunn. Mr. Woodard can send it to Mr. Dunn today for review.
Good.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
And also, one thing that I'll reach out to, or Dr. Labat, if you want to, reach out to Greg Andrews to see what the tax being paid on the location is.
I didn't hear you, Mr. Spears.
I was just going to say, if we could find out from the tax assessor what the total amount of taxes are being paid for the particular property,
Okay.
or not necessarily total, but what's back to the school district.
So you want to know what it's appraised for, and
No, ma'am.
okay,
Well, I'll reach out to Mr. Andrews and just ask him what the tax, how much tax is being paid to the property.
okay, yeah, I
That
got
way
it.
I can share with the board on Monday.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. So moving to 22, we have our Mill Creek Pontotoc agreement between CMSD and Mill Creek of Pontotoc Schools. Then we have our discussion and consideration between CMSD and Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services Office. Then we have our interagency agreement between Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services and Columbus School District. And the other was for transition services. 23 is transition services. 24 is Department of Rehabilitation Services. Then we go to 25, which is discussion of MOU between the CMSD and Community Counseling Services. 26 is contract between CMSD and Mississippi University Women for speech therapy services. 27 is consideration to approve fiscal year 21 IDA assurances. Then we have discussion to approve Dr. Anita Kraft, licensed psychologist, proposal for services. 29 is discussion to approve contract proposal between CMSD and Sandra Davenport, behavior specialist. So is there any questions on any of those items, 22 through 29? Okay. Then we go consideration discussion to approve CMSD agreements with Institute of Community Services, ICS, Project Head Start. We have our cooperative agreement and transition plan, comprehensive child development services for preschoolers, and agreement for food service combined services between ICS and CMSD. Then we go to discussion and consideration of renew the typing agent instruction program for grades 3 through 8. Then we have a discussion to renew TE21 agreement was submitted by Special Services Coordinator. So does anyone have any questions between 30 through 32? All right, 33 is consideration and discussion to renew Schoolology Master Subscription Agreement. 34 is to consider approval of Saxon Phonics and Spelling Refill full set kits proposal by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for all elementary schools. Then we go to consideration discussion to renew STEM Scopes curriculum renewal purchase. 36 is consideration discussion to renew Jumpstart test prep for Columbus High School ACT test prep. All right, so any questions through items 36? Okay, 37, consideration discussion to renew iReady instruction program. Discussion to renew, 38 discussion to renew Nearpod program for instruction in pre-K through 12. 39, discussion to approve advertisement in the commercial dispatch per MDE announcing community eligibility provision, CEP. And 40 is consideration discussion to approve CMSD buses preventive maintenance summer project comparison. Any questions on any of those items through item 40? All right, then 41 is consideration discussion to approve contract between CMSD and Elite Athletic Therapy. And Dr. Labat, is this for trainer support regarding athletic games and practices?
Yes, and actually we'll be removing this item from the agenda. I hadn't had time to speak with Ms. Woodard, but after review from Mr. Dunn and Hempfield, right now we're in a contingency situation with athletics, and the trainer would like to have his salary in its entirety, whether we have a season or not. And so I wanted to do a month by month, or try to, because we can't pay for services that are not rendered. And so we have to find some other contingency, and Mr. Garrett is working on that. So we'll be removing that item. I know the Board of Trustees asked last fall in detail about making sure that we kept our students safe, and that we had an athletic trainer available to make sure that if there's an injury, that they have immediate medical attention. And so we've been in pursuit of trying to get that facilitated for all of our sports. And just because, I mean, due to the current situation, we may have to look at a different type of athletic training. And Mr. Dunn, did you want to comment? I know you were in that email chain regarding the contract.
No, I agree with you. You said it perfectly.
Okay. All right. Board, any other questions on any items through 41? Okay. Next, we go to D, consideration discussion to approve student transfers.
I can't mute this thing
For
some reason.
We have goal updates, safety report,
Anyway.
closed determination for executive session. And right now we only have our executive session minutes for June the 8th, return to regular session, and adjournment. So, board, is there any questions for anyone regarding items that we have reviewed here for Monday night's meeting? Okay. All right. So I'm going to take us back over to today's agenda, and let me just see here. We just reviewed that, and before we adjourn, I just want to make sure, I know Mr. Dunn was looking into something for us. Mr. Dunn, do you want to just bring to the meeting Monday regarding the item on the lease agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Dr.
We'll respond before then, today,
Okay.
this afternoon, to both you and to Dr. Labatt, but it'll be all straightened out, by Monday.
Okay, excellent. All right, so board members, are there any other items or discussion, questions? Okay, all right, so that brings us to our last item on today's agenda, which is to adjourn. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Stocks. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll make the second. Any other discussion? Okay, being none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Cox, aye.
Ms. Young, are you still with us?
On mute.
She's on mute.
All right, Ms. Young just texted and said aye. So,
Okay, there we go.
And so that moves us to being adjourned. So thanks everyone for being here, and look forward to seeing you Monday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, how do I leave?